Hello and welcome to Fast Forward Newsline. My name is David Kattenberg. On today's edition of Fast Forward, bringing nature back to cities, restoring what's been lost. With me today, special guest, Michael Welch.
How are you doing, David?
I'm doing well, thank you, Michael. Michael, you want to introduce yourself quickly, Michael?
Well, sure. My name is Michael Welch. I'm the news director at community radio station CKUW 95.9 FM in Winnipeg, which is hosted at the University of Winnipeg radio station, where I've been a programmer for since 2008.
And we're in the midst of Fund Drive. I'm going to ask you about that at the end, okay?
For sure.
Okay, excellent. This week's audio documentary, just to my right here, on the screen, focuses on Hamilton, Ontario, Steel Town. I lived in Hamilton for years, Michael. People would always laugh when you'd say to them, Hamilton's a beautiful spot, right? They kind of think you were telling a joke. You were being a little bit sarcastic. But indeed, Steel Town, right, home to Canada's steel industry, such as it is today, hosts the Niagara Escarpment and Cootes Paradise and the Bruce Trail. It's a city of actually great beauty, and they're in the midst of restoring it, which is the Cootes Paradise. They've been spending some decades doing that and restoring the harbor. So I thought we'd chat today about some stories that you've come across of a similar nature, like restoring something natural to cities. Tell me what you've found. Yeah, Southern Ontario, right, like milkweed. What's that all about?
Well, first of all, the point is that in Southern Ontario, over the last several years, what they'd been noticing is that there's been a decline of monarch butterflies, and this is related to the fact that milkweed is actually the main food source for monarch butterflies. Well, milkweed was considered a noxious weed until about 2014. So there were efforts to get rid of all the milkweed everywhere you could find it. And as a result, you see this decline in the monarch butterfly population. So what happened was that researchers at the University of Guelph, in association with the David Suzuki Foundation, decided to start to reestablish milkweed in a corridor within southern Ontario. And so as a result, we're seeing initiatives to get it planted along pipeline paths and along power line paths and even in little roadside areas, as well as...
And are the monarch butterflies coming back?
Well, the monarch butterflies, it's beginning to happen, because this program was basically, they eliminated this provision that milkweed be considered a noxious weed in 2014. So it's just beginning to start to come back now. It's still a little early, but the fact is that you're not only looking at the return of the monarch butterflies, but more biodiversity in terms of like bees and wasps, hummingbirds, the pollinators. So we're seeing more of that, a diversity of that kind of wildlife that's beginning to emerge again.
I think I could say Canada's most populated region and Canada's most urbanized region, Southern Ontario, which has an enormous ecological footprint. So just this little project is, I guess this is something we're going to have to follow. Tell me about Richmond, California, and tree planting.
Well, yes, this is there's an initiative in place where you actually have three separate nonprofits that's called the Watershed Project, Groundwork Richmond, and Pogo Park. And what they're trying to do is address issues, a variety of issues, not only neighborhood livability, filtering air pollution, climate change, all with that simple remedy of planting and caring for trees. And so there's this project that's been in the works, and it's got a grant late last year from the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection.
And this is in Richmond, California? In
Richmond, California, in the Bay Area. And basically it's a lot of volunteers going out and planting trees and caring for them, as well as people are being asked to take part in an Adopt a Tree program. So you could have somebody coming to your property and planting a tree there. And they're trying to expand the urban forest and address a wide range of societal ills.
And the idea is to focus on tree planting in areas of the city or the community that are underrepresented.
Absolutely, but for certain, throughout the entire city, but particularly those areas that are already somewhat underdeveloped, and so that adds to not just the aesthetics, but also these environmental challenges.
Now, in terms of underdevelopment, that brings me to the third one. In the underground, in the London Underground.
That's a good segue. I like that.
What's going on in the London Underground?
This is a really interesting story because back in the time of World War II, they built an array of these underground tunnels which were intended to protect residents from V-2 rockets that were being hurled at the city. And what's happened is since then, these tunnels have been vacated, and a couple of filmmakers had gone and explored this area, and they decided that this would be an interesting opportunity for a new enterprise. So now those same tunnels are being used to provide a space for hydroponics. And so they have a variety of different of these what they call microgreens. So they'll plant these seeds in this kind of wood pulp fibrous material, and then what they'll do is they'll put it in these little shelves, and then they'll sit it in the tunnels, but in special shelving under LED lights, which are on for 18 hours a day. It grows these plants, and the plants are harvested and taken to restaurants within the city, and not just any restaurant, but even high-end restaurants. And it's quite a remedy for a lot of things. I mean, you hear about the 100-mile diet. Well, this is like a 100-foot diet, 100 feet straight down. And they're taking these plants and they're being used in these restaurants. They're very nutritious. They're low carbon. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of energy to transport them from the farm. And it's
making the urban footprint a little bit smaller. With perhaps great savings in terms of energy and
not only that, but it has a culinary appeal too, because these microgreens are very rich in nutritive value and very, very tasty.
Michael, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this interesting conversation. A super quick plug for CKUW. This is being filmed at CKUW. CKUW is assisting in the production of the Fast Forward Newsline. So thanks to CKUW. Quick plug?
Oh, absolutely. CKUW from February 5th to February 12th is hosting its fund drive. 25% of our operating costs are covered by listener donations. So we're encouraging people to phone in to 204-774-6877 until February 12th and make a pledge. And if, as our way of saying thank you, you either get a tax receipt or you could get fine incentives. I'm modeling a couple of them right now. This is the T-shirt from 2010. At the $160 pledge level, you could get a T-shirt like this, in addition to other sorts of incentives.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Michael Welch is the news director at CKUW, University of Winnipeg Radio here in Winnipeg. You've been watching Fast Forward Newsline. A fresh edition comes your way in this little box each week at the same time, thanks to the Government of Canada and the Social Justice Fund of Unifor for their generous support. You can be a sponsor of the Fast Forward Newsline. Give us a shout at greenplanetmonitor.net. My name's Dave Kattenberg. Bye for now.